Robin went from being the most mysterious character in One Piece, whose motivations were completely unknown, to become arguably One Piece's best character, being labeled the Demon Child. While Goofy Luffy was falling over himself chasing after Ace and Sabo, Robin was being chased by every form of enemy in the story. And in modern One Piece, Robin is really the character we've come to expect to unlock the lore, as well as create pretty goofy interactions with the world and characters. Now, some people definitely like Robin for undisclosed reasons, but otherwise, most people connect with Robin because her life in a world with beasts, gods, and pirates is relatable in the sense of longing for a purpose. Now, in this video, I'm going to overview her past, what she is doing now in One Piece, and what questions she'll unlock to give us the truth of this world. Now, let's jump into the past first, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of information that you guys know, but a lot of information you guys have forgotten and need a refresher. And in writing this script, I remembered a lot of stuff that I honestly completely forgot. So our first knowledge of Robin is of course her time in Ohara, which is said to have the smartest people in the world that were working towards objectives that at the time seemed absurd. Their objective to unlock the truth of the poneglyphs was something that they were doing in complete secret as they pursued the everlasting question of the Void Century. Now, to me, this was always been a strange thing. Imagine if in the US there was a random period of time, let's say like the Cold War, like 40 years, that was just erased from history. Imagine if the US citizens were like, yep, okay, all good. Shit happens sometimes, and just moved on with their lives. Now that I said it, maybe people in the US would actually do that. Anyways, Robin was really interested in their research. But what is strange is the fact that at the time, Robin had really no clue who her mother was, who left at the age of 2. And of course, we find out that she is with the other archaeologists traveling back. But in typical anime fashion, she leaves her kid behind. And yeah, of course, she doesn't have a father because it's anime. But apparently her mother left to go pursue her father's dreams. We'll get into some theories on that later, but to be honest, they're going to be pretty thin theories. During this time, Robin is left with her mother's brother and their family. Her uncle's wife, Roji, I have no idea if that's pronounced right, proceeded to abuse her over the years and constantly reminded her that she lacked purpose and was completely unwanted. Being separated from a mother at this age, whilst living with people who didn't want her to be any better and looked down on her, she was down horribly until she met Professor Clover, who looked after her and taught her the ropes of archaeology until she of course wanted to learn about the past and study the poneglyphs. She was then though suddenly banned from learning, and this really taught us that whatever they were cooking down there in their studies could only be described as dangerous and untouchable, because why would Professor Clover, who suddenly cared for this character, suddenly get extremely mad when she wanted to go down and do their little underground studies with them? It was clear to everyone watching at this point that he did this to protect her, but still, it was only a child who was in a bad situation that just got put down even worse. Of course though, Robin was following their research in secret and learned the ancient language, and during this time she befriended Saul, who really became her only friend. Word got out that the researchers were doing what they were doing, and this led to the Navy moving in, and at this point they called in the Buster Call. This is a huge point, because if word got out that they were blowing up the island due to research, it would become really clear that this tyrannical government that cared more for its own self-interest than anything were probably not people you should just lie down to and listen to as if they're this just form of government. Which is really interesting how much power the government actually had, and posed a question of what actually was in the Void Century. And at this point the audience was really curious what was in the Void Century, seeing as they just blew up the entire island. And during the chaos of the Buster Call, all the scientists were caught and killed during this intense invasion, and Robin met someone that immediately could have been seen as her mother. And in this time where this lonely child seemingly found her true purpose, found everything she wanted, it was ripped away from her and her world falls apart. And even worse than that, she finally runs into her mother, and her mother having no choice but to not have an emotional reunion, but to plead for her to run away, and her young child knowing that her mother is likely going to die here and this is going to be it, was one of the most tragic moments in the series. And then one of the leaders of the Buster Call, in a sense, or one of the people leading the invasion rather, was Aokiji. And as he's making his way onto the island, he realizes that Saul is there. But Saul is not corrupted like the other Marines. Saul is just, and Saul has morals. And at the time we thought Aokiji did too based off Water 7, but he even went as far to warn Robin that there were Marines headed to the island to destroy Ohara, because at the time they weren't really sure if they were just getting captured or if they were literally going to be killed. Now, I don't really know what Saul was thinking telling a kid this, But at the same time, Saul was not the sharpest tool in the shed, and can you really blame him for trying to warn his friend about this? Saul having other morals besides what the Marines really assigned to them, like the power of the Marines, still chose to do the right thing. I think Saul's main purpose here is to show that even the goals of the Marines are hidden from people in the Marines, and most of the corruption is coming from the top. And as Saul is letting this young Robin escape, Aokiji intercepts them, and at this point, you really have to analyze Aokiji's decision. And this has been changed very recently in the manga. Aokiji is of course younger than we meet him in Water 7, but the person we met there is seemingly someone that knows the true intentions of the Marines, but at this point you can't really say that, and he seemingly killed Saul. But Jesus, pause, hold up. He kills Saul, but of course, short manga spoiler ahead, double tap twice if you haven't seen it, Oda refuses to kill characters, and now a decade later we realize that Saul is still alive. This completely changes the characterization of Kuzan. Kuzan seemingly doing what needed to be done for the Marines in this fact, but in reality just froze him and unfroze him later on. It has completely changed our perception of the character, but that is a video for another day. In the story, despite killing Saul, I guess, Aokiji let Robin go too at the same time. So that's really the decision to analyze. In doing that, you can see that even Aokiji at this point is questioning the Marines and their logic. Why would they kill a kid? There's no point in doing this. At this point too, we see Aokiji also realizing that they intend to kill everyone on the island and not capture them, which prior the belief was that they were just going to destroy the research and not actually kill anyone from the Marines, but they could not risk anyone uncovering the history of the poneglyphs, and obviously they had memory of the poneglyphs, so they couldn't let that slide. And at this point, there needs to be a seed of doubt in the minds of the audience and all the characters in the story that the truth of the world government is extremely dark, and seeing the extent they would go to keep their history covered just shows the ruthlessness and the level of deception going on in the One Piece world. And at this point, Robin is someone that has lost everything and now has knowledge that will lead to her death and being hunted, and this all leads to the inevitable birth of the demon child. Her title of the Demon of Ohara came from Spandine, who headed the Buster Call, stating that Ohara was trying to get ancient weapons and destroy the world, thus resulting in Robin getting a 79 million berry bounty. Robin, who was a kid that was just studying, still trying to figure out the world, is all of a sudden being hunted by every criminal and Marine, and with no one to turn to, and knowing that everyone she left behind is dead, well, knowing Oda, they're probably somehow still alive, she now has to try and figure this out all on her own while basically being a stowaway. Everyone from that period of time that was seemingly helping Robin tried to turn her in, an old farm lady, a couple, and all the while her only option was to turn to pirates who aren't exactly known to be reliable, and then she didn't bounce around pirate crews, different organizations, till she finally found her footing with Crocodile and Alabasta. There, she at least knew she was somewhat safe in the fact that Croc's goals required her to read the poneglyphs, and in order to locate Pluton, even though Croc is an idiot, she felt safe and spent 4 years there until you can enter in Monkey D. Luffy. The events of Alabasta occur, and some of the key highlights there are she saved Luffy and Cobra. She also read the poneglyph, and surprise surprise, Crocodile tried to betray her, but during this time Luffy left an impact on her that affected her and genuinely moved her, probably because he's an idiot, but also because he is earnest and seems to have true morals. And after Alabasta, Robin hid on the Going Merry and joined the Straw Hats, with them being suspiciously easy to win her over, only taking half a chapter to all of a sudden trust her. When you put it like that, wow, they really are just a bunch of idiots. Nothing too important happened for a while, besides Robin enjoying her time on the crew, till of course the end of Skypiea, and Jesus Christ, don't get me started on Skypiea, but she read the bell that had the writing stating that the real poneglyph was on Laugh Tale, and that Roger wrote a message there informing of another ancient weapon called the Poseidon. And after she read this, she truly did feel that Luffy would become the necessary force in the world, and enough time had passed that this was somewhat of a justifiable thought for the audience too, based off the potential we've seen, and of course he is the main character. Now the big dog, in the moment everyone's been waiting for. Let's get to Water 7 and Enies Lobby. Once inside Water 7, Robin was approached by a man in a mask who just whispered CP9, and obviously this shook Robin's whole world. She was seemingly just finding her footing and a new family, and now someone far beyond the level of the Straw Hats, who was the full Marines at their disposal, has finally found her. She's not even alone. Her friends are there too. She was then pinned as the assassin of Iceberg, who ran Water 7 and was the president of the Galilei Company, and the rest of the Straw Hats are also being blamed for this assassination. During this time, you may have forgotten that Robin actually got intercepted after the whole assassination thing by the Straw Hats in Iceberg's room, where Luffy begged her to stay, but she refused them and seemingly in her mind turned her back on them forever. As I was saying, the strength of CP9 was only really known to her, and the Straw Hats had all the right reasons to believe that this was an earnest betrayal. But what has already been overly established at this point is that Luffy is a complete idiot and would not take no for an answer. And as we see with Nami and Sanji and Usopp, once you're in the crew, he will do anything to protect you. And speaking of Usopp, it's important to note that this whole beef with Luffy was going on as well. So him and Usopp not being on good terms and the whole crew feeling this tension, and then Robin runs away, it was a lot going on. And I think that's a whole video for another day on Water 7 as a whole. But as it pertains to Robin, the point being, she was taken to Enies lobby from here, where she learns that Spandam did not want to honor their agreement, which, in case you don't know, Robin negotiated a deal with Span that he would leave the Straw Hats alone if she turned herself in, and at this moment, she realized that Spandam is not going to honor that at all, and I don't know why she did, and why, if you notice the theme, at every point in the story, she feels she's safe and protected, and then, of course, gets betrayed. That keeps it going and is kind of overly obvious at this point, but at the same time, you really have to think about the headspace of the character and how she allowed herself to be tricked again, because in this situation she really had no other option but to cut a deal, because to her knowledge the CP9 would have absolutely ran through Luffy, and it was to their knowledge, like, Luffy at that point should have on no way been on the level of CP9, and he wasn't. And as it seems like everything is destroyed and her life is really falling apart and she tore apart another family, she notices Luffy standing outside the Tower of Justice. Now this makes Robin angry because she's desperately trying to save the one thing that she holds dear, trying to do anything to get them to leave, and Luffy's response to her wishes and her wants was to burn down the world government flag. And at this point all bets are off, because Robin knows an act of treason like that to that degree will only lead to them being chased for the rest of their lives, but at the same time a conflicting feeling of knowing that at this point they're all in with her no matter what, because you can't just destroy the world government flag and get away. They're already in Enies lobby. There's no way they're leaving unless they're leaving with her and they succeed in destroying CP9. You realize that Robin, it clicks with her and she understands Luffy even more, because it doesn't matter if it's Spandam, CP9, or the entire world government, they will do anything to save her. Luffy's decision here is really interesting because he also forces her to declare that she wants to live, of course. But to the same extent, when you think about it and where the Straw Hats were, if she did not say that, the Straw Hats were in no position to escape, like I was saying, and they would have had to surrender. So at this moment too, Robin is still being mentally tortured by Spandam and telling her that his father, Spandine, was the one that called in the Buster Call to Ohara and ordered her to be hunted for the past 20 years. And then Spandam starts hysterically laughing while Robin is being broken into tears, ready to give up on everything, as every part of her life is a tragedy, not being able to hold anything close, and the sins of the father are definitely passed on to the son, making a plea to Luffy that he doesn't truly want to save her, and eventually she'll betray them just like she did everyone else, until Luffy reminds her that they're willing to go to any length, any degree of pain in order to save her. After recalling her entire past, every single person that has ever helped her betrayed her until the Straw Hats, and making the selfish declaration of wanting to live will only bring her and her friends pain, as they will likely die, until the fact she realizes that Luffy and the Straw Hats bring her joy, and Luffy could be the one to change the world, reminding her that there is a future and a light, but more than anything, a purpose to live, and a purpose can change a whole person, make someone better, make someone happy, and make someone feel safe. Through this realization with her friends, ready to take on the world for her, take on assassins, and take on a monster for her, she declares that she wants to live and wants to sail with the Straw Hats forever. Now, just like Robin wants to live, I want you to drop a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. It's my first video with this length. How am I doing so far? Is it alright or is it not alright? Alright, let's get back to it though. Now we're gonna jump ahead. They get out of Enies lobby, all that good stuff, and they get split up at Sabity is the point we're gonna jump to. And she gets sent to a bridge country called Tequila Wolf in the East Blue. Yes, you heard me right. A bridge country called Tequila Roof. That is the sickest name, but the people of this island didn't exactly have the sickest experience. They were enslaved for over 700 years until they were later freed by a group of revolutionaries. Turns out that the revolutionaries had been looking for Robin for 10 years, and Dragon was unsuccessful at finding Robin too, just like he was many other things. And at this point, she goes to Baltigo to meet Dragon for her 2 years whilst being trained by Koala in Fishman Karate, which, to be honest, until I researched for this video, I never realized that that's what she was doing with her hands. That's really fascinating. Jesus. That being said though, we don't really know what happened in these 2 years. Being cooped up with Dragon for 2 years means she's bound to know significant information, but even to this point in the manga, the central point and plot relevance of the revolutionaries is still relatively unclear, and I've been quite critical of this. Even if the next chapter has a full breakdown of every millisecond of Dragon and the revolutionaries, it still is frustrating as a viewer to be held out on for this long on what their central purpose is beyond just saving citizens and freeing people. Let me know how you feel about that down below though. Now, I'm going to speedrun this next bit because we got to get to some of the good stuff. But basically, Neptune tells her Joy Boy failed, as well as stress the importance of the Noah and Shirahoshi being Poseidon, which now that I say it is not brought up enough. Literally nothing happened in Punk Hazard. Really nothing happened in Dressrosa. Physically nothing happened in Whole Cake. So she befriended that thing and read the road poneglyph and explained that there were 4 road poneglyphs that would lead them to Laugh Tale. In Wano, she beats up Maria, but this is way more of a Sanji thing to analyze like that. At the end of the day, Robin, she feels that sense of completeness and really being a part of the crew and being able to help someone else out. Also, Robin and Law get taken by Odin's father to the underwater city that is Old Wano, and also explains that Pluton is in fact in Wano, learning that Pluton is below. In order to get Pluton, the walls have to be destroyed, thus opening Wano's borders, but also they still don't understand why Odin wanted to do this and really wanted to release a weapon of that magnitude. Then, in Egghead, Robin learns about the machine that was built during the Void Century, and an archaeologist risks his life to learn about the Great Kingdom. FYI, to my knowledge, this person is still unnamed, and I think as Robin's father with absolutely no evidence to back that up. Shaka also tells her that Ohara's will still lives on. It is then revealed that the books were also saved. Oda can't even kill books, but the books were saved by a group of giants led by a man with bandages. Guess what? Oda can't kill Saul either. Dragon was also present on Ohara as they were retrieving the books. That is basically everything Robin has been up to as of this point. As you can see, her character in post time skip has been reduced to some point as a lore dump read poneglyph machine, which is really frustrating considering that she was one of the most dynamic characters in the series with a ton of static characters. With that being said, I don't think anyone was asking for major changes after Enies Lobby, as that Gigantamax change on its own was still more than enough. But obviously some of those arcs, she did nothing out of the norm in terms of Straw Hat stuff. Nothing really that really stood out except just having a charisma and a good energy. She does exhibit the same like nonchalant personality as I was saying. At the same time, it kind of feels like a plot device just to read poneglyphs. There's still much more she could do in the future to flip this whole story on its head, and that's what we're about to get to. So let's get into what you can expect from Robin in the future, because she could really nuke this whole story. First of all, I'm going over a quick theory that has died down significantly since the start of Egghead, but it is still possible, and that is Robin getting captured in a very similar way to Ace. This would ignite a second Marineford, and the reasons are somewhat obvious, as the whole being the only one who knows how to read poneglyphs thing, but this theory also mirrors a Sabo theory that's supposed to like mirror the whole Ace thing and to draw out Dragon and the revolutionaries. Is also a somewhat common theory, but we also don't really know what's going on with CP0. But the whole reason that that theory really blew up was when we didn't know what was going on with CP0 and Sabo at the Reverie. The Robin theory, I guess, is still possible as they haven't escaped yet, and that would definitely lead to a full-scale invasion of the whole Straw Hat fleet, the whole revolutionary army. Now that I say it though, that sounds pretty sick. Like, Jesus Christ, also where would Aokiji fit into all that? Anyways, that looks more unlikely by the chapter, but the main point is that Robin holds a lot of information that is being withheld from both the readers as well as the characters in the story. What really went on those 2 years? What else did Odin's father tell her? What general information and conclusions did she draw from being with Dragon? And with all the information that she knows and the reason of her being in the story, it would make sense that she'd be the one to piece together all of the Void Century history. It'll make a lot of sense if the Void Century full history is discovered by her, and even if she's not the sole person to do that, she will definitely be there when they learn it. And I see a world where she fully understands Luffy's abilities in Gear 5 first, and then she explains to him the consequences of Gear 5. There's a world where he can die, and of course when she tells him that, he's not going to care. There's also a world in which I think Robin could die. This makes a lot of sense from the perspective of her knowledge as well as her strength level not being that strong. That is a pretty bizarre theory with not a lot of backing, but just based off the premise and parameters, it is something that definitely could happen, considering the fact that everyone is getting closer to the One Piece. The other key piece is the fact that the man with the burn scar who holds the last road poneglyph, there's an abundance of theories from Scooter to Weevil to Saul to Dragon to Loki, but depending on who that is, and it's likely also could be a new character, whoever finds him is going to need Robin in order to decipher his poneglyph, and his intentions for the most part are completely unknown. The central point being that every single character character in the story is locked behind the paywall that is Robin and is gonna need her one way or the other in order to advance towards the One Piece. The only way Oda really works around this is if other characters can read poneglyphs, which would be extremely disappointing and ruin Robin's whole purpose. Robin is going to be the one that initiates any major plot moments in all sides of the story. She is the key to the One Piece and the Void Century, and likely her learning about Emu would put a lot of pieces together. There is so many absurd moments that will come from Robin in the future that will shatter the minds of One Piece fans and manga fans. It is fantastic writing in a sense that Robin is being hunted by both Marines and pirates. Her true protection is the new family she's bound with Luffy and the Straw Hats. Although she once lived a life where everyone wanted to use her for their own malicious purposes, she found a crew in the Straw Hats that cared not for her past, but a group of absolute baboons that just want to chase their dreams and have the time of their lives whilst doing it, without a larger manipulating purpose to simply just chasing the feeling of true freedom. Robin has elevated the series into one that is relatable, and in this bizarre world of fruits, giants, and whatever this is, Robin features some of the best writing in the series and is truly the key to unlocking the truth of the One Piece world and everything that holds it. So this was my first real video essay attempt, so please drop an immense amount of criticisms down below so I know how to improve. Be sure to check out some of my other content too that is not this long, and honestly, like I was saying, drop as many criticisms as you want down below. I definitely need it. This video was extremely challenging and very long. So with that being said, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and don't forget, we're just getting started, we're gonna stay consistent, and I will see you in the next video.